The tariff slowdown has begun. Bookings of container shipments from China to the US are down nearly 50% compared to a year ago, according to shipment tracker Visun. In tonight's In Depth, CBS's Carter Evans goes to the country's busiest port. Starting today, all cargo leaving China and heading to the US will now carry a 30% tariff, which is a steep drop from that 145% tariffs that were in place for the past 6 weeks. As tariffs on foreign imports begin to take effect, there has been rumours circulating online that ports have been seeing fewer cargo vessels, and the Port of Seattle is turning into a ghost town. Jessica Janner, with our verified team, explains if there's any truth to those claims. Port authorities are bracing for a major impact. According to Port of Seattle Commissioner Ryan Culkins, there could be a 40% drop in vessels in container traffic the next few weeks. Still buzzing with activity for now, the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere is bracing for a dramatic slowdown. According to Gene Soker, Executive Director of the Port of LA, the Northwest Seaport Alliance says it's expecting 15 more cargo ships over the next week between the Port of Seattle and Port of Tacoma, with 12 of those ships containing goods from China. It started with a whisper, a few delayed ships, a few missing boxes. Then came the flood of silence across every major U.S. port. From Los Angeles to New Jersey, from Savannah to Seattle, the arteries of American commerce are choking. Thousands of containers are stuck, truckers are going broke, retailers are spiraling, and what experts now call the biggest shipping disruption since the pandemic is unfolding in real time. Before we continue, hit that like button to help us beat the YouTube algorithm and to show your support. This is not a slowdown. This is a collapse, and it is only getting worse. The Port of Los Angeles is reporting a drop of 35% in incoming cargo. Long Beach is not far behind. Ships are skipping port calls. Importers are cancelling orders. Terminal operators are watching berths sit empty while piles of containers gather dust. At least 400,000 containers that were scheduled to arrive this month have not. Blank sailings, cancelled voyages, routed cargo, all triggered by Trump's sweeping tariff escalation and the global panic it set off. Gene Soker, Executive Director of the Port of Los Angeles, confirmed the nightmare. Trade with China is very limited right now. He said, "This is an unprecedented disruption." At first, it looked like a supply problem. Now it is a demand problem. No one wants to ship goods into chaos. No one wants to pay a 145% tariff to reach a market that may not buy. So the ships are staying away. The containers that do arrive are getting stuck. Chassis are in the wrong places. Rail terminals are backed up. Empty boxes are stranded. And truckers, they are the first to suffer. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button to show your support to the channel. Truckers at every port are reporting a complete breakdown of freight availability from Southern California to the Southeast. Independent operators are sitting on contracts they cannot move. Some report hauling as few as 10 containers a week, down from 50. Rates have dropped below survival levels. One dispatcher called it the freight famine. Nav Gill, a Northern California fleet owner, told reporters his business is moving 60% less cargo than it did 2 months ago. His drivers are worried. The checks are smaller, the bills are not. And yet trucks are not the only ones freezing. The problems are radiating inland. Logistics hubs in Dallas, Chicago, and Kansas City, places where containers are supposed to be transferred, stored, and moved again, are breaking under pressure. Some are too empty, others are too full. Railcars loaded with cargo are getting stuck in bottlenecks. In some cases, containers are arriving, but there is no one left to take them. At one Kansas City rail yard, officials confirmed that over 2,000 containers have been sitting for more than 7 days without pickup. Some of the goods inside are time-sensitive. Medical supplies, perishables, consumer electronics due for back-to-school season. Retailers are now beginning to panic. The big chains, Walmart, Target, Home Depot stocked up early, But that stockpile was only designed to last through spring. And now the trickle is threatening to become a drought. The National Retail Federation has already cut its outlook. They now expect import volumes to fall at least 20% across the board. Certain sectors like clothing and toys could see even deeper cuts. And that means shelves will go empty, prices will go up, and consumers will pay. But for many retailers, the problem is not just the shortage of goods. It is the surge in costs, import duties, storage fees, delay penalties, all piling up. And when the cost of doing business becomes higher than the margin, companies fold. Small retailers are collapsing. Already, bankruptcy filings have spiked among import-dependent businesses in California, Texas, and Florida. In Savannah, a family-run furniture importer told local news they had to cancel all shipments from China after tariffs doubled their costs. "We cannot survive this," the owner said. "We are finished." This is the real consequence of trade chaos. And what is Washington doing? Nothing, or worse, more of the same. Trump continues to call his tariff policy a victory. But behind closed doors, his own advisors are warning that the supply chain is unraveling. Economic models show that consumer inflation is being driven in part by imported goods stuck at ports or subject to exorbitant duties. In a single month, more than 400,000 containers were cancelled on the West Coast. That is a billion-dollar blow, not just to importers, but to the dock workers, truckers, warehouse crews, and mechanics who rely on steady volume. And now even the unions are speaking out. The ILWU, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, has warned of widespread layoffs if volumes do not recover. "Less cargo means less work," said one local president. "We are already seeing cuts in hours. That means rent goes unpaid, food budgets shrink, families suffer." The trucking industry is screaming louder. The North American Punjabi Trucking Association, representing thousands of independent port drivers, issued a statement this week. "Our members are at the brink. If conditions do not improve, we expect mass bankruptcies in the next 60 days. And yet, there is no coordinated response because no one can agree on who to blame. Trump blames China. China blames Trump. Democrats blame tariffs. Republicans blame regulations. And in the meantime, the ports keep failing. Inland, the collapse is hitting harder. Cities like Chicago and Atlanta are reporting rising warehouse vacancies, not because business is thriving, but because freight is not arriving. There is nothing to store, nothing to move, and soon nothing to sell. And it is not just cargo. Security is unraveling. With so many containers stuck, thieves are moving in. Organized crime networks are targeting freight yards, stealing electronics, cosmetics, and other high value items. Container theft is up 40% in Los Angeles and New Jersey. Some companies are hiring private security. Others are simply giving up. And while all this unfolds, a new threat looms. Because in the middle of the chaos, China and the United States announced a partial truce. A 90-day pause on tariff increases. On paper, it sounds like relief, but in practice, it could be a new disaster. Importers are racing to flood the ports again before the pause ends. That means the same terminals that were empty last week could be overwhelmed next week. Port officials are calling it a whiplash event. Logistics managers are calling it impossible because the ports are not ready, staff is short, equipment is misaligned, truckers are broke, and if hundreds of ships arrive in a rush, the backlog could balloon into a full-blown shipping catastrophe. And this is not hypothetical, it is already starting. Freight forwarders are booking slots. Chinese exporters are loading ships. Some reports say as many as 1,000 ships are being queued for delivery into North America over the next 6 weeks. It is the biggest import surge since the pandemic. And if the ports cannot handle it, the system breaks completely. We are not just talking about shipping delays. We are talking about store closures, layoffs, inflation spikes, credit defaults, the collapse of regional trucking companies, a breakdown of consumer confidence. And it is all preventable if the government would act, if tariffs were restructured, if port capacity were increased, if trade policies aligned with economic reality instead of political rhetoric. But that is not happening, so the containers sit and the trucks idle, and the shelves begin to empty and the country waits. 10,000 containers. That is not a statistic. It is a warning, because behind every box is a paycheck, a hospital supply, a construction material, a promise. And when those boxes are lost, everything built on them begins to crack. This is the real cost of chaos. And if it continues, what comes next will not just be economic pain, it will be a reckoning.